then you have already read the subplans directions for October 17th. So please know that on Google Classroom, the PowerPoint titled Day 1 Intro into Investing, notes titled Day 1 Intro into Investing, and then this YouTube video is on there. Please make sure you've read all steps and then begin the video titled Day 1 into Investing and listen to directions and explanations. This video is really great because I'm going to give you a little bit more insight into this lesson that you would usually get in person. I might ask you to pause so that you can do work independently or with a partner, but please make sure that if at any point you're confused about something, you go ahead and shoot me an email with all your questions for the day because I want to make sure I get them answered. There's about 11 steps, but I promise a lot of these steps are pretty simple and straightforward. So I'm going to go back to what we're doing today. So, all right, using your group. So at this point, you can utilize working with other people or working with a partner, but you need to make sure you're showcasing self-control to get the work done you need. Please read through Investing Introduction Infographic and answer the 4 questions. So on your paper, you're here. You'll want to pull up on Google Classroom right now this document so that way you can click the graphic link. Before we do, let's see what we are looking for. So investing is a powerful tool you can use to build your wealth in the long run. So how does it work? Read through this infographic and then answer the questions to find out. So question 1 you're looking for. Your friend says, I have some extra money, but I'm not sure if I should save or invest it. What key questions would you ask your friend to help them figure out what to do? So you're going to look for 2 questions. The second question you're looking for is, what is the advantage of investing early for retirement? Question 3, if investing can bring higher returns, why should you put money in a savings account at all? And then 4, what 3 tips would you give someone who is about to invest their money for the first time? All right, so this infographic, it seems a little daunting. You click on it and it takes you here, and it gives you a little crash course with visuals and information. So you're going to read through this, a little introduction of it. I would be looking at everything saving versus investing. Really important that we're noticing a difference as you're reading through this graphic. Look at this kind of like a T-chart, savings versus investing. Over time, what does that mean for you? Looking at savings and investing. What are some of the risks into investing? What are like the return, the average return rate versus like what is the risk that you could lose your money? Looking through these different things, reading through everything as well. It's really interesting to understand. Okay, so you're going to look at these different things. And from there, again, you're going to answer questions 1 through 4. So if you're paying attention, go ahead and hit pause on the video and take about 5 to 12 minutes to work independently or with somebody else to answer these questions. So if you're using a time, if you're being smart, you can just I would do maybe an 8-minute timer. All you have to do and hit start. So hit pause on this video and go ahead and start on your do now. All right, at this point, you have finished your do now. Hopefully you learned a lot of interesting things about some things to keep in mind, savings versus investing. The one thing I really want to kind of focus on from afar is that first and foremost, it's important to have a savings account as well as to consider investing. A lot of people don't invest because they don't know how, and it can be really daunting to do. Savings are nice because you have that cash right away. All I have to do is go to the bank and pull out my card and I can get that money. Versus investing, it might take a lot longer for me to get my money out of the stock market. So this unit, we're going to focus on investing in some different strategies. So hopefully you noticed again this infographic of what would happen if we put $1,000 into an account. What would end up happening? Over the course of 40 years, it would only make us about $165. Yes, it made us money, but if we would consider investing that money, it could potentially bring us over 19,000 more than we originally intended. So really something to consider. Another thing I wanted you to see is there's multiple different investing strategies. So you've probably heard of stocks, but there are also things like bonds. There are CDs and there are mutual funds as well. So some things that you may have heard of or you may have not that we are going to start learning about into this unit. So one thing I also want, your objective today is to calculate compound interest. So we're going to need to calculate compound interest, but also to explain and evaluate why it's important to save early. Okay, so how can saving early affect your future income? I want you to really think about that question today. You will have your test either on October 31st or November 1st, so Halloween or Dia de los Muertos, and there's about 12 test questions from today's class, so you need to really make sure you're listening. Now, go ahead and read through these myths. Go ahead and read through these myths so you can hit pause and you can read through each one. There's 5. So go ahead and hit pause and read through each of these myths. All right, you've read through the 5 different myths. So it's super important that we're seeing that people who have a lot of money, millionaires, are constantly considering of ways to invest and make more money. They are not just saying, all right, I have $1 million and everything is great. They're finding ways to take that million and turn it into 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. So something to keep in mind is that these millionaires didn't just get that money from nowhere. They're constantly putting it back into the market. What's really important is from the millionaire myths to also this slide in particular, there's going to be at least 2 test questions. So make sure you understand and focus. There are multiple ways to build wealth, but in the simplest terms, think of these 3. Make enough money to cover essential expenses and have something left to save and invest. So that's step 1 is you want to make sure you're making enough money to cover your cost of living, your rent, your utilities, your multiple different bills. It's super important that no matter what your base level is, I want to make sure my bills are taken care of. We're not going to invest money if we're struggling to pay our car payment. Okay, so that's your first thing. Now, the next thing is you got to sit down and find ways that you can save money. So you want to think of ways that you can save money, whether that is having in a savings account, but also having some investment strategies. So that could be, again, stock market, on the stock market or bonds. But once you have a plan to save, you've gotten all your bills. Now you have some money coming in and you have a little extra money every month that you can put in a savings account, but also invest. The third thing you want to do is invest to put money to work for you. So you want to take money, put it in the stock market, and you want it to work. So that way, if I put $200 in the stock market, by the end of the year, maybe it's $1,000 already. So I'm trying to use this money to make me money. Okay, so that's the game of investing, is putting in money to make me money, to make myself money. Now, there are 2 types of things to consider. So I'm going to hit the present button. So there is the save mentality and the invest mentality. Both are super important, but one is going to bring you more money in the long run, okay? Now, you have savings versus interest. Savings is the type of income investment. Now, you store money somewhere to avoid spending it now. So what are some things that you might want to store money for in order to save for later? Think in your head. I hope some things that you thought of were like a car, college, or house. So we've been talking about these ones, okay? Those are the ones that are obtainable. We can see them in our future. They seem very realistic to us. Now, what is important is when we do put it in a savings account at the bank, when we do put it in the savings account in the bank, it is protected there. So it is protected versus if we were to put it in a box in our room and say, for example, somebody broke into our home, it is not safe and protected. So keeping that in mind, and that having the savings account is great because it keeps your money protected from things like theft or even natural disaster. It's always available unless for some reason it was stolen, lost, or destroyed, and it is insured if it is kept in a bank account. For something were to happen and it's in a bank account, it's insured and you should be getting your money back. Okay, now invest. type of growth investment. You use money with the expectation that it will make a profit. So, stocks, other examples of things that you might invest in to make a profit are rental properties or businesses. Not all investments are insured. So that means that if you pay $1,000 to somebody to start their own business and their business flops, you're not going to get that money back. It's not insured. So there's a huge risk of this one. So investment, there's a big risk. You could lose money and it's not insured. And no guarantee that the original amount will be available if the value of the investment drops, except bank accounts. So meaning, say you bought a stock, an Amazon stock that was $50 a share, and that stock all of a sudden decreases. So you put $10,000 in the stock market, and that stock price decreases, and in 18 years, you go in to look at that stock, and next thing you know, it's actually only worth $5,000. You lost some money there. So there's this definite risk that the money you put in is not going to put any return at all, or might lose you money. So it's something to keep in mind that it is risky, but it is something to consider. Why would we want to invest? What would we want to use that money for? Think of those things. Now, some things that come to mind as a personal person, I'm actually going to start investing. I haven't done it first, but I think of my children. I think of wanting to invest in the stock market to cover their college cost. Why? Because I don't make a lot of money, and I won't as a teacher. I love what I do, but if I could take a little bit of money and turn it into a lot, enough to cover their college expenses, I would love to do that. To consider retiring. I would love to retire by 55, 60 so I could spend the rest of my life traveling and spending it with my kids and my grandkids. And I know that that costs money, and I don't want to work that long. So something to keep in mind of reasons why I might consider investing. All right, so we're going to watch this movie, but before we watch this movie, this video, let's go ahead and read the questions so we understand what is expected of us. So saving, investing, and speculating. The video explains the difference between saving, investing, and speculating. Watch the video and then answer the following. Explain the relationship between risk and return. Number 2. Jason just had his first child and wants to begin setting aside money for his child's college tuition. Should he save, invest, or speculate, and why? 3. Pamela and her spouse want to move out of their apartment and buy a house as soon as possible. Should they save, invest, or speculate? Why? So let's go ahead and watch this so that way we can answer our questions.
Every successful investor must begin by understanding the difference between saving, investing, and speculating. If you get those confused, you run the risk of losing a lot of money. Let's start with saving. Saving can be defined as the process of setting money aside in order to make a purchase a short time in the future, typically under 3 years. The most important element when it comes to saving is the safety of your money. You don't want the value of your savings to fluctuate because you'll need all of it to make your purchase. There are several options available to help you save money. Savings accounts, money market accounts, and certificates of deposit, for example. Unfortunately, as a trade-off for protecting your money, saving typically pays interest at a rate that is just a bit higher than inflation. If you want to earn more than that, you'll have to look to investing. Unlike saving, investing is a long-term process. It often involves committing a portion of your money to owning a share of a business, with the expectation that you'll receive a higher return than inflation. The most important factor in investing is the growth of your money, and there are many ways to invest, with stocks, bonds, and real estate being the most popular. However, once again, there's a trade-off. While investing typically offers better returns than saving, it also carries more risk, as the value of your investment bounces up and down, at least when looked at in the short term. To be a successful investor, you must invest your money for at least 3 years. That's because, over longer periods, the value of your money will appreciate enough so that even if the value of your investment falls over a short period of time, It will still be higher at the end of the period than it would have been if your money had been sitting in a savings account. But what if you need to grow your money quickly? That's where speculating comes in. Speculating involves putting your money at risk with the hope that you will earn a high return in a short period of time. Day trading is a good example of speculating, where stock trades are opened and closed in a period of minutes or hours. Speculators can win big, but they can also lose everything. So, to sum up, save to protect your money, invest to grow your money, speculate to gamble your money.
All right, go ahead and pause this video in order to answer the 3 questions, which were explain relationship between risk and return. Jason had his first child and wants to begin setting aside money for his child's college tuition. Should he save, invest, or speculate, and why? And then Pamela and her spouse want to move out of their apartment and buy a house as soon as possible. Should they save, invest, or speculate, or why? Go ahead and answer those questions and hit pause. Okay, so you have now done saving versus investing. We're seeing some of the differences. We're seeing slow growth versus quick growth with savings as well as investing, but then speculating is more of gambling. There could be a very high return, but you definitely could probably lose your money. So being really cautious of that. So hopefully you have some quality responses. I don't want to give away what the correct response is because you should be doing the work. Okay, so we have seen in the first one, we've seen simple interest, which is, if we remember, it's this formula. So we're on the next page of our notes. It is interest equals principal times rate times time. We know that principal is the original amount invested. So an example of that is if I purchase a car for $16,000, that is what my principal is. Now the rate is the interest rate at which I pay that for. So maybe that is, so in this scenario, it is 5.5. And then time how many years is that loan for is going to give me the interest. Okay, so we have seen simple interest rate formula and we should be experts. But we're going to look at compound interest. Compound interest is a little bit more complicated when we do the math, but it's going to make us more money if we are investing. But if we are purchasing something and they're using compound interest, it might mean we owe more money, okay? But we're going to think of it in an investing mindset. So compounding interest, you could write this down as earning interest on previously earned interest plus the principal amount. So you're constantly earning interest. And so it's pretty nice. Whereas A, so here's your formula. A equals P, and then in parentheses 1 plus R divided by N, parentheses times N times T, okay? So when we think about this, A is the final amount including interest after T years. So that's your amount after you pay interest. What is the cost afterwards? P is your principal. R is your interest rate, okay? N is the number of times it compounds in each year. That's the new part. And then T is the number of years you invest for, okay? So if we're looking at this scenario, let me talk it through you. So 500 is how much you've purchased something. Let's say that's a TV, those new TVs with a curve. Now the next thing would be 1. It tells us that we just have to have 1 in rate. All right, when we do that, we're looking at, if we times this by 100, we would get 2.5% as the interest rate, right? Remember, we have to move the decimal twice. So we move it and we get 0.025. So that is going to be our rate times how much it compounds in the year. Well, 365, there's 365 days in the year. That means it compounds every single day, which means more money in the long run. So we put 365 here, and then over here, we're going to write the same thing. We're going to do the amount of years it's invested and then the number of times it's compounded, which is 365. It seems a little complicated, but I promise you it's not that bad. So I'm going to look at some more examples before you get freaked out. All right. So interest, how often is it calculated? When interest is calculated, changes how much you make. For example, 3% yearly interest on $1,000 will give you $1,030 in a year. Now, 3% daily interest on 1,000 will give you $1,030.45 in a year. So what you should see is compound interest. The more something is compounded, the more money you're going to make. So usually you see compound interest either done in quarters. Remember, there are 4 quarters in dollars, so quarters is 4. You might see it done semi-annually, semi meaning twice a year. If you've ever seen sales in stores, you might see it semi-annually, like they might do a winter and summer sale, so twice. It could be monthly, 12 times in a year. So it kind of just depends on the contracts. You want to make sure you read the contract. So again, daily, every day of the year, semi-annually, 2 times a year, quarterly, 4 times a year, or yearly, once a year. Now, in a perfect world, if you could choose, you want your interest to be compounded daily when investing and making money because you're going to get more money, okay? So the best case scenario, so if we had to rank these, number 1, daily, number 2, semi-annually, number 3, quarterly, and number 4, yearly. The daily is going to make you the most money in the long run. It's super important that you remember daily will make you the most money in the long run because it is on your exit ticket and you might see that on a test question, okay? So daily is going to make you the most money. You can also have written this down on the back of page 2, okay? Now we're going to watch the video, Compound Interest Explained. So for some of us, we need to read it. For some of us, we need to see visuals. And then some of us are doers. We need to actually practice it. So let's watch this video, but we're going to answer the questions. In the previous resource, you learned that compound interest is one of the key factors that can help your money grow. Let's take a deeper look at how compound interest works in this video and then answer the questions. Why do you earn more money using compound interest than you would using simple interest? Does compound interest have more of an impact for short-term investments or long-term investments, and why? So let's watch.
Compound interest is the interest an investor earns on his original investment, plus all the interest earned on the interest that has accumulated over time. It is easier to think of compound interest as interest on interest. To understand compound interest, let's first look at simple interest, the interest earned on the original principal only. Suppose you deposit $10,000 into a high-interest savings account at a 5% simple interest rate for 3 years. The interest you earn each year is 5% times $10,000, which equals $500, for a total of $1,500 of interest at the end of year 3. $500 plus $500 plus $500. Now instead, suppose that you deposit the same $10,000 at 5% interest compounded annually. In year 1, the interest you earn is the same, $500. But in year 2, the interest you earn is 5% times $10,500, the original amount plus the interest you earned in year 1. So the second year's interest is $525. In year 3, you earn 5% interest on $11,025. $10,000 plus $500 year 1 interest plus $525 year 2 interest for an interest payment of $551.25. In total, you earn $1,576.25 in interest over 3 years with compounding interest versus $1,500 with simple interest, a difference of $76.25. The effect of compounding becomes especially powerful over longer time periods as the amount of earned interest becomes larger and larger.
Okay, press pause on the video in order to answer questions 1 and 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and compound interest for 4 practice scenarios. Okay, so we're going to do 4 practice scenarios and I'm going to show you on the computer. I'm going to walk one through you. All right, I really like this visual because I think it's really helpful. So keeping in mind, I think it's really helpful and something you should consider utilizing. So we're going to do number 1 together. So your scenarios are right here. We're going to do number 1 together. So I'm going to do something a little bit differently. Insert a drawing. All right, I'm going to go back and forth between a calculator as well. So give me a moment and let me pull up the calculator. Now, if I'm doing this correctly, I'm looking at my notes to see it. So it says, on 500 earning 5% interest rate, calculate the ending balance after 2 years if interest is compounded semi-annually. Well, if I go back to my notes and I double check, that means it's compounded twice. Okay, so when I write this equation, I'm first going to write it down on my paper. Is the principal is 500 times 1 plus the rate. So I know the rate. It needs to be written in a decimal. It says this on our paper in the little infographic. So if I have 5%, I have to move the decimal twice. Then I'm going to have 0.05, 0.05 over, and the number of times it compounds. All right, well, I know that it's semi-annually, so 2. And then it's going to be 2 times 2. 2 times 2 because the amount of time. So let me write it here for you. So we don't know what A equals. So A equals principal, which we know is 500, times 1 plus, we're going to do, it was 5%, but that means when we do the decimal, it's 0.05 divided by 2 because it's compounded twice in a year, semi-annually. Then we're going to have to also put that to the number of times it's compounded is 2 times 2 because it says after 2 years. Okay, so it's going to be 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, so I could write it 2 times 2. But make sure we do it like this really quickly. Let me put my little guy in here. 2 times 2, or I could just put, since 2 times 2 is 4, I could just do 4, okay, to the 4th power. So when I do this, I am first going to do 0.05 divided by 2. All right, and this is the number I get. Okay, so the way I could write this on my paper is step 2 of writing this on my paper. If you're doing the math type, which I always want you to show math, it would now look like 1 plus 0.025 to the 4th power. Okay, and then I can write that also. A equals, because it's 1 plus 0.025, 500 times 1.025 to the 4th power. Okay, now I want to put that in my calculator. So that I need to do, I'm going to highlight it. I have to do this math step first, then I can times 500. So I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to go, I might need to do, I'm going to look at a scientific calculator to help me out. Okay. Oops, sorry. Clear all. Going back to main, so it's 1.025 function, and then times 4. Okay, I get that. So you see this number right here? Okay, so I'm going to write that down on my paper. I'm going to write 1.1038, and I'm going to write it here so you can also see it. So it looks like this. A equals 500, and then I'm going to still have to times it, because times, and the number is now 1.1038. Okay, now let's go ahead and do that here. It times 500, because that's the principal. Yeah, what did I get? I don't know. Okay. 1.1038 times 500 is this. Okay. Okay. I want you to pause the video and try to do question 2, 3, and 4 on your own. So go ahead and try to do 2, 3, and 4 on your own. All right, so we will go back over those ones in class. I promise you that when I return, but hopefully the video and me showing you how to do it was helpful, but also utilizing this orange graphic I think is really helpful. So a couple other things I want to go over is some interest earning saving options. There's saving accounts, money market deposit accounts, and certificate of deposit accounts, also known as CDs. So these are some different things that you could utilize in order to earn you interest on your saving options to save for the future. Now, a CD or certificate of deposit is a certificate issued by a bank to a person depositing money for a specific length of time and pays the same interest rate for the entire time. So, for example, you deposit $10,000 for 5 years, and then after those 5 years, you get that $10,000 back plus the interest you earned on it. A money market deposit account is a financial account that pays interest based on the current interest rates in the money market. And then as savings bonds come in paper or electronic form at 50% of the value. So a $100 bond would cost $50 and you would hold on it for years, and when it matured, you're paid the face value. So if you purchase a bond for $50, after 10 years, you can cash it in, and instead of giving 50, you would actually get 100. That's what that means. So which is better, investing early or investing a lot? Some people think it's better to wait until they've saved up a lot of money to invest because they think they'll make more money if their principal is higher. But actually, if you invest early, you have advantage of compounding interest over more years and will make more money in the long run than someone who waited until they had money saved up. So AKA, it is better to start saving now than it would be later. So it would be better for me as an individual to be saving now than later. Okay, so I'll show you a couple examples of that. So I want you to read Analyze Investing for Retirement, and you are going to answer the questions. Okay, so you will answer all the questions, but I want to show you an example of this. I want to show you as well. I'm going to actually, so you're going to do these, but let me show you an example. So I'm 26. You guys, I think, know that. So I'm 26. And what's really interesting is if I would have been saving at 20, say I wanted to have $1 million at the time I retire. If I were to put in at the age of 20, $360 a month. Now that was a lot for me back then, but if I committed to it, I could just put $360 every month until I was ready to retire, and I would have $1 million in my account. Versus now, if I want to have $1 million in my retirement account with stocks and stuff, I should be putting $500 a month in my account. Whoa, 360 is a lot easier than 500. And so reading this graphic and seeing, it's better to start saving sooner rather than later. Okay, so something really important. So go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and answer the questions on graphic number 1 and then graphic number 2. All right, awesome. You've now gotten to step 10. Now, step 10, I want you to complete this exit ticket. There is 10 questions. I really tried to make sure to give you questions that you could be seeing on your test. It's super important you take this seriously. So go ahead and do this one for me, and go ahead and pause the video and do questions 1 through 11 on your exit ticket. I'm really proud of you if you've stayed with me this entire time. I appreciate you and knowing that this is a great way for us to get this information. Now, once you've completed step 10, remember to complete step 11. And so look at step 11. You're doing something really awesome. You're going to get a little something if you do step 11. So please do step 11 for me. I love you, and I will see you guys soon.